Welcome to the Process Orchestrators. I'm Naz, and today I'm joined by Ruben Ochoa, the CEO of SF Industries. Now, SF Industries is a tech forward contracting company, and my conversation with Ruben is a colorful exploration of how Moxo powers their day to day. In fact, in Ruben's own words, Moxo allows them to get 70 to 80% of a project done before their boots have even hit the ground. In leveraging Moxo's actions, automations, APIs, and an AI bot, they've been able to streamline their process timelines down from days to just minutes. They're expanding nationwide this year with full confidence that Moxo will grow with them. So join us as we do a deep dive into their backstory, their strategies, and their successes. Hi, Ruben. Welcome to the Process Orchestrators.
Thank you.
Can you tell me where you're joining us from?
My office in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, amazing. Ooh, I'm a little scared to ask, what's the weather like right now?
It's hot all the time.
It's hot all the time?
Well, mostly anytime after summer here, we get nothing but hot after this. So I try to escape as much as I can.
Yeah. Hope you're staying cool, or glad to hear that you are. And, really happy to have you on the show. I'm so excited to dive deeper into SF Industries. And
Mhm.
so, on that note, can you go ahead and kick us off with your story? Right? How did SF Industries come to be? What was your inspiration, or maybe what you were looking to solve for when you founded it?
Yeah, SF Industries was born several years ago. Actually, was born out of COVID. I'd sold a company back in 2019, just right before COVID, just in the nick of time.
Mhm.
And was traveling, and then I was on my way to China back in 2020, and they said no way, go kick rocks. And so I had but we were on our Asia trip. Actually, I was like, okay, well, let's go to Vietnam, and Vietnam said no way, go kick rocks. And so we kind of got to a point where we didn't know what COVID was yet, but we knew
Yeah.
those countries were saying no. And so we're like, well, let's go back to the States for a little bit. Planned on staying there for about a month or so, and then
Yeah.
back to our travels. And then obviously COVID hit much harder than we anticipated.
Yeah.
And so SF Industries was sadly born out of boredom, actually, where we didn't really have much to do but try to work and stay busy. And then obviously became successful in its own right, and it kind of spiraled from there. So yeah, to answer the question, I have COVID actually.
That's amazing, and I mean, I'm sure you're not alone in that. Sorry to hear that you got kicked out of different countries. That makes sense with what was happening at the time, right? And I kinda do like this idea of, oh, it was born out of boredom, right? 'Cause I think what that kind of insinuates is that you had the time to really kind of explore what you wanted to do, and I guess I'd be more curious to hear about that, right? Like, what was the thought process behind it? What is your background that made you found a contracting company and things of that nature.
Yeah, to that point, kind of that to what you said, you sit for a little bit longer and you decide what do we really want out of life. We're not just out to make money anymore. It's more than that. Obviously, that's always the goal when you work, but we really had the time to sit. And one of the biggest things I wanted, and it gets into more of a loop of different companies we've started. Binzer Buddies, I know you're familiar with one of those.
Yep.
We actually started a nonprofit. So one of the biggest things that I did outside of all of that is I was at a point in my life where I wanted to do something different, make a difference in life. And so I
Yeah.
started a nonprofit. It was called the Bloom Project.
Okay.
And the nonprofit was for young entrepreneurs to teach them about business and so forth. And took on a few young entrepreneurs. We paid them a grant of $12,000 each to quit their jobs. And that was the biggest thing with entrepreneurs. We said, well, in order to make the jump, you got to make the jump. You got to quit your job. You got to show up. You got to be here 100 hours a week, because that's real entrepreneurship. And that's what we wanted to show them. And the biggest hurdle was, well, I got paid all bills still. And said, it's going to take you 3 months to go through this program. Quit your job. Here's $12,000 to survive and make something happen. And so we created a fake company. It was called Buddies Incorporated. And SF Industries was the quote unquote founder of Buddies Incorporated. And Buddy Incorporated was an umbrella of multiple other companies. And Binzer Buddies was one of them. It was just a
Yeah.
fake fun company to teach kids how to build business. And so when that 3 months was up, they came back to me and they said, well, we want to keep going. I said, well, you're out of money, so no. And they said, well, we'll work for free. We want to build this thing. And I said, okay, well, let's do it. But we'll invest in the company, but your pay is cut. And so for about 6 months, like you said, that time that we need to really think about what we need to do in a company, the kids, I call them kids, but young adults, they grinded for 6 months straight without pay, and just they suffered a little bit like a true entrepreneur would, and they built the company we know today is now is SF Industries,
Yeah.
and really to answer your question, it was built out of them wanting to move forward. I don't think without them and the nonprofit we created, SF Industries likely wouldn't be born still.
Wow, that is incredibly powerful. I mean, I didn't know about your nonprofit, and it's amazing, right? I it's actually really funny to hear you say boredom at first when the real story is actually so much more colorful and meaningful,
Oh,
right? I think that's incredible, and I wanna hear, I guess, a bit about your background, right?
mhm.
So, clearly, you're interested in entrepreneurship, you're a business owner, you wear that business owner, operator hat, and so oh, and you also have a military background, right?
Yep.
I believe you're a veteran, and I definitely wanna talk about that too, right? Can you tell us a little bit about how your role or what your role entails and what it's like to put on that hat every day, step into work, and do what you need to do?
Yeah, I have a colorful background as well. It starts really sad, and then I use it as a working tool for where we're at today. So yeah, I grew up a really hard life, in and out of foster care kind of situation. Just kind of the rough and tough life, as a child. As a kid and even young adult, I did the woe is me status, and I really let that childhood get to me. And I think we grew out of it and used it as a tool to mentor and motivate others. And so one of the biggest things is I joined the military right out of high school. Like you said, I was in the Marine Corps, and that was great. It was really because I knew I wasn't ready for school. I didn't have the funds for it. I wasn't smart enough to do it. I barely, I worked 24/7 as a high schooler, and so I knew I didn't have the grades. I barely knew how to read at the time. And so I was like, military is what's for me at this point. And so, of course, with that rough life, coming into, midway through the military, I turned 21 and ended up adopting my little sister. That took a turning point because now I was no longer eligible for reenlistment because I didn't have a deployment contingency plan. And so I wasn't kicked out, but I wasn't eligible for reenlistment. And so I got to a point where I was like, I don't have my degree yet. I still don't know anything. What am I going to do? And so my background as a young teenager was roofing. I was on a roof most of the time. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going to start roofing. And very quickly, I learned that even in the military, I was horrible at following directions. I wasn't a good employee. I wasn't a good anything in that regard. And I can now thankfully in my older days say that I was a natural born leader, and I knew that.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it though. I just hated it. I was like, I'm just gonna work for myself. I hate people. And so pretty in a very young age, at young 21 me, I started my first company. It failed miserably. And then I started another one, also failed miserably. Kind of the whole entrepreneurial story of failure. And then in 2016, I finally started a roofing company, and that was where a lot of my experience came from. In 2019, I sold it. And then from there, I went back into that same cycle of failure. I was like, well, I hate roofing. I hate all that stuff. I still was trying to find like a purpose, which is where the Bloom Project came through, like
Okay.
my true purpose kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then it just kind of spiraled into more companies that failed over time. I was like, well, I don't like that. I don't like this. And then
Mhm.
the SF Industries and Binzer Buddies finally came along, and I loved it. I was like, this is where I'm at. This is great now.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, thank you for sharing. I can't tell you how inspiring and impactful it is to hear how much adversity you kind of had to go through and really your growth since then, right? I think your story is so beautiful and I really want to acknowledge that I love that you've known yourself this whole time. And I think that's really led you to be this successful founder and be in the area that you want to be in too. Right. And so your story has entailed some failures, right? So can you tell me, right, when it comes to SF Industries and Vinzer Buddies, I guess first off for our viewers who aren't in Arizona, if you could tell us what Binzer is, and then I'd love to kind of hear what is it about those that stood out, right? I know you had your sort of history in roofing, and so it makes sense that you were going into maybe more. having jobs that are more physical, but I'd love to hear a bit more about what it was that clicked for you and made it feel right.
Like I said, I never liked the roofing industry from day one, and I was really good at it. And I was only good at it because I stayed off the roof because I hated roofs. And so I knew I wasn't the physical type to go swing a hammer. And so when I sold that, and even in the midst of that, being on large construction jobs, we got to a point where we were doing commercial, and then I'd
Yeah.
go on job sites, strictly for roofing purposes, but I'd see the whole picture, and I knew the whole picture, and I knew the process, and those kinds of things intrigued me. And so when I sold the company and decided that, what's next, I knew naturally I was going to go into some form of construction. And so that was like the failure points of like, well, let me go try to be a restorator, or let me now go be a glass guy. And I tried all these different trades and I hated them all. And so
Yeah.
then the next one was, well, let me just be a full general contractor and see how that one goes through.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that interest stuck, was me going through all those different trades. I knew I was in construction. I was just finding the which direction, because construction is a very wide range of things. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what led me to stick with that particular industry. And then Binzer Buddies, a Binzer for Arizona is a very specific document for real estate agents. No, if you're not in Arizona, nobody would have ever heard of the name, but it's a very specific and distinct name for real estate agents here in the Valley. And it's basically just a document in a transaction that allows better communication for what's going to be repaired on a specific house that's being sold, or request for repair rather.
Okay.
And so we created a unique company that kind of steps in and says, hey, just give us that document. And we're fully licensed in all these different areas. We can take care of anything you need, and we can do it really quickly. And so we created a system. Moxo is a part of that, of course, that
Yeah.
allows us to expedite the communications. We created softwares and background, thanks to AI, of course, that allows us to be extremely fast at what we do. And so with real estate, time is of the essence. You have typically
Yeah.
just a day or two to figure everything out, how much it's going to cost to do so many XYZs, fill out paperwork. And so we've created a system that kind of allows that very expedited status.
Yeah.
Usually within 24 hours, we get agents everything and anything they need.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like you knew from the start, right? I know you said this outright, but you knew that you were the meant to be the one running this. And that's
Mhm.
so clear even in talking to you. And so I guess I'm curious, right? I love that you mentioned that Moxo was a pretty essential part of this. And I'd love to know, did you start off with Moxo? Did you try things without a platform, and kind of what that decision making process was like?
Yeah, so we never really considered anything like Moxo until we started getting into the complexity of what we were looking to have. And we said, hey,
No.
this is getting a little on the complex side. We need
Yeah.
to make sure that clients are communicated with. They need to be able to see what we see. They need to have access to it 24/7.
Yeah.
And so Moxo, we stumbled upon Moxo. We went through a dozen different platforms that we possibly could have done. And we said, hey, we want to build our own app, because at this point it's too complex to just go use any random app. We need to build our own mobile app. And so
Yeah.
during that whole process, we came across Moxo, obviously tried it out. And then through and through from day one, we knew that this was the company. It's simple. It gives us everything we need. It can be complex,
Yeah.
and it allows us to do pretty much anything we want. A lot of flexibility with it while still keeping it very simple.
Definitely. I mean, I love that, I completely agree with you there. Having that flexibility to be, let's say, or like simplify and streamline your processes, but also have them really complex so that they match what you actually do with your business, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm curious to hear, right? You guys offer an immense amount of services, I believe. And so can you kind of tell me what those different services are, and maybe what those processes look like on Moxo?
Yeah, so we do offer a lot of services. Our Moxo services are strictly utilized for our real estate community, and it's geared and built for real estate agents. And so when they get to go in there, because of the flexibility that we have in building the app, they get to see, certain what they call flows, and we get to say, hey,
Yeah.
when you're first starting, you get, here's where you're at, and then as you go through the process, they get to see that flow. of
Yeah.
where they're at in a certain transaction and whether they've approved something or whether they need a revision, and they can draw directly on the app and say, hey, they can circle their paperwork and do all these things. And there's live automations. If they circle something, we get an automatic message and say, hey, somebody's doing something. Make sure you go help them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good transaction for real estate agents specifically, which is why we built it for agents, because we don't want to call it hand holding, but they want that attention, because not because they're needy, but because like it's time sensitive. If somebody's not there immediately while they're doing something, they get really antsy. And so that's what's been able to help us out with Moxo, is just kind of keep that quick flow.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And honestly, it's really interesting to hear because I think when I think about contracting, right, it's very physical, it's labor. And when I think about Moxo, it's tech, right? And you're really the kind of the joining of the two together. And so very interesting to hear that real estate is kind of the route that you went to kind of combine the two.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think any business can be a great business, whether you're a doctor or construction or a teacher. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, and this is what this is what I teach in the Bloom Project, is every business is built the same exact way. Every business needs an EIN. Every business needs this. Every
Mhm.
business needs a CRM. Every business needs a back office. Every business needs an admin if you're going to be successful. And that's why they call it wearing of a lot of hats, is because
Yeah.
you have to do all these things in order to do your XYZ. If you're going to be a doctor, you can't be the receptionist at the same time.
Yeah.
And that receptionist needs to have an email and a system or Moxo or whatever, platforms they're utilizing. And so it's really important. Moxo, for example, is to keep us organized and keep that communication going. So even though it is a construction company, I think probably only 30% of our company is built around the actual construction itself. Everything else is focused on the processes.
Oh, amazing. I mean, let's talk more about processes then. I
Yeah.
think I really love that you're talking about wearing different hats and I think for me and thinking about the platform there, that comes back to like more having like role-based responsibilities, right?
Mhm.
Your agents know what tasks they have to do. And then again, the automation that you've set up goes ahead and tells the right or notifies the right stakeholder that, hey, you need to do this because this person has done that. So can you kind of talk to me about what those different roles are? Like who on your team I guess, yeah. What does your team look like on Moxo, and what is the agent's experience like? And kind of, I guess I'd love to hear too what they've told you about the platform.
Yeah, our agents slash clients, they love it. Obviously, there's a lot of nuances to it and learning curves to it. But those that do use it and are active in the app, it's very easy. Where they'll even message us on text or email, like, "Hey, I sent them through the app. It's been 15 minutes. Nobody responded." And so we have to really be on it. I love using the app because it's all right there. They can go back to their messages. They don't have to search through emails that they accidentally deleted or the 400 messages they went through. They know that it's all there, and all the documents that they've given us, and every document that we have, any photos, it's
Yeah.
all in Moxo as well, under their
Yeah.
files. And
Yeah.
so they love that probably more than anything, because they're dealing with 15 listings maybe and 15
Yeah.
clients, and it gets really confusing for an agent. So for being able to have that platform that's already that we've done it for them through automations, it's not even that they have to go do any work. And I think that's really different with a lot of different platforms for agents, is they have to go physically do something.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to have to, as an agent, I don't want to have to upload my stuff and organize myself.
Yeah.
The Moxo app organizes it, forcefully organizes it for them without them even realizing it. I
Yeah.
think they really love that.
Yeah. Amazing. I've never heard someone call it forcefully, but
Is that a word? Did I say a word wrong? I
no,
told
no,
you I wasn't
no,
smart. I
it was
didn't think.
right. But it was right, but I loved it. I really did. I think you're bringing up 2 really strong things, which is organization, right? And also having that contextual history, right? And having all the documents and all the conversations and everything that's been done about the process in that one place so that your agents maybe don't have to ask you where something is or they already know because the system has forcefully, organized it for them, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think, like, I love this kind of bird's eye view of the process. And can you kind of walk me through, maybe like get a little deeper, right? I know you guys offer some like a quote at the beginning. And so can you kind of walk me through, right? If I was a client looking for a quote, what would that process look like? How would you guys send it to me? How quickly can you get it to me? And if I wanted to sign with you, what does that actual flow look like?
Yeah, so it's through Moxo specifically. There's certain flows. So they have the approval buttons. They have basically on the app itself. You can create it and customize it as needed. So they can go in there, upload it directly into the app. So there's web links that allow us to have an actual button on the app,
Yeah.
sends through our wherever platform we need. They can
Wow.
upload what they want, and then through various other automations through Zapier and webhooks and all that, they get all their normal information. Hey, we've received it. It goes to the whole flow. But at the end of the day, it starts with Moxo. That's the
Yeah.
button they're pressing. They're going to go in there, request that, and then once that process goes through, we obviously get all our notifications, all our documents, and like you said, that we have 24 hours to get that returned back to them. And we in our back systems, we've been able to perfect that system, where we can bid $100,000 within a matter of 15-20 minutes, where
Yeah.
normally that would take a matter of days to go
Yeah.
through. So we've really been able to perfect that process. But then once that happens, we click a couple buttons, and then it go all that documentation, the estimate, all the documents that we receive, like I said, with one button, it forcefully goes into the Moxo system and organizes it for the agents. And that's through a lot. And that's why I said Moxo can be really complex if you really want it to. So we've been
Yeah.
use a lot of APIs to be able to do all those forceful items, but
Yeah.
through just a couple buttons, which is really, let me use forceful a few more times. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, and so that's really what we do is we kind of
Yeah.
force organization. And that's a really important thing for us is if we're not organized, everything collapses, which is why we've made it and created it to be forceful. We know it's not an option. It just comes automatically to be organized.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. I'm so happy to hear the word forceful in this context, right? Because it's working, right? You guys have perfected this, and that's a crazy amount of time to go from something that would take weeks to, 24 hours. And so, can you kind of tell me, like, I'd love to hear a bit about the connection about what happens next, right? You have this one process on Moxo, and it's not necessarily or at least, right, the project that's on the ground isn't reflected as a process in Moxo. So how does that transition or handoff look like?
So once it's approved in Moxo specifically, it creates a whole nother file. And again, all those files transfer over accordingly. And so there's basically two files on any given project. Whereas here's the starting point, here's all the conversations, here's the estimate. And then once approved, there's a whole nother process. And for us specifically, we've created a process where it says, hey, here's a track. For example, we have a transaction form through Moxo. And we get to say, hey, fill out all this information so we stay organized. It'll be here always and forever, and we know what's what in the given project on your thing, on the things we don't quite know yet, things we wouldn't ask when you're just asking for an estimate.
Yeah.
And then we have an approval process where the invoice slash estimate automatically gets uploaded as well, and they have to approve that as well. So that's the portion for them, their chores per se, to say, hey, this is everything you don't know. We totally agree on all of this. Now move forward. And then
Yeah.
once that happens, it's pretty wrapped up. Now all of that 60-70% of office back work and that construction happened. So we're almost 70-80% done with the project already, and we haven't even been on site.
Yeah.
So now it's just a matter of doing the actual 20-30% of construction.
Yeah.
So Moxo allows us to get to that 70% before we're even boots on the ground.
Oh, amazing. I mean, that sounds so fast, right? You guys are,
Yeah,
are on
really.
it.
Well, when you stay organized and you do all those processes and you really understand that portion is really important instead of just being like, let's hurry up and get out there and then
Yeah.
we'll deal with the paperwork afterward. That's usually where the breakdown comes from. And that's where a lot of companies can and do fail.
And it's amazing that you're able to overcome that. And I guess one more thing I'm curious about with the app, right? If I'm not mistaken, you guys have the Binzer Buddy client portal, right? And there's also Buddy's Pro app. Are those one and the same? Are those two different apps? And how do you
So
leverage it?
we have an AI bot whose name is Buddy. We call him our Buddy bot. And so
Okay.
that's the Binger Buddy thing that you maybe speaking of. And so it's again, AI is our friend. AI does a
Yeah.
lot of work for us.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to train and create what we call a buddy bot. And it basically, we've trained it to know everything about our company.
Yeah.
Everything we do is super standard and streamlined throughout the process. If you were to ask me how much it takes to, or how much it costs to tighten a faucet, if you ask me that today, it'll be, I'm going to make up a number, $23.05. And if you ask me in 2 months and you tell your friend about me, and your friend from somewhere else asks me how much does a faucet cost, it's going to be the same exact dollar amount down to the 5 cents. And so we've been able to teach Buddy all these processes. And so now you can have a full conversation with Buddy and
Wow.
he can give you those instant answers. One of the things in real estate we learned is every agent wants it yesterday. And so as we got to sit and think, like, well, the best we can possibly do is instant. And so
Yeah.
that's why we created Buddy, was to give those instant answers 24/7, whatever they want. If they want to know if we're licensed, our license number, if they want to know how much something costs, if they want to know the process, if they want to know about Moxo, whatever it is they want to know about their company, Buddy can have a real life conversation as if they're talking
Amazing.
to the owner of the company with all of the knowledge. And so that's
Yeah.
what we've provided for the Binger Bunny side.
Okay. Amazing. And that's a bot in Moxo or
Yeah, but yeah, in Moxo as well. So it's
amazing.
actually right next to Get an Estimate, Talk to Buddy if you want instant answers. So
Okay.
that's kind of the catch all of it. You can get paperwork in 24 hours, but if you want instant answers, just talk to Buddy.
Yeah.
And that's all embedded in Moxo.
Amazing. I mean, I really love how forward thinking your business is too, right? You are hand in hand with automations and AI. And so I would love to talk a bit about it more, right? Because I mean, your processes are effectively human driven, right? Even if 60, 70% of that happens on Moxo, there's still someone who needs to be, let's say, making decisions. There's, the client needs to fill out that paperwork with intention and with judgment and with their knowledge, right? But you're able to get things done so quickly and really streamlined because you have AI and automation assisting you, right? And
Uh-huh.
so can you kind of talk me through what that decision was like to implement both of them in your processes?
Yeah, so I mean, the decision was really based off of our young entrepreneurs that we had, and
Okay.
thankfully, I feel like an old man sometimes adopting kids and raising them and going through companies and all this stuff. So I feel like a really old man sometimes. And I didn't even learn about the whole AI system, as most people didn't, up until like a year ago. And so my young entrepreneur is, who's up and hip with it. Actually, it started out with, because I was teaching him what SOPs was.
Okay.
And so I told him, hey, create an SOP for these 10 things. And the next day, of course, they're overachievers. They created an SOP for like a million things. And I'm like, how did you? And it was just like a thick, thick piece of document. I'm like, what the heck is this? And they basically said, well, we told AI to give us all these different SOPs and it just gave us all of this.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because when that happened, I kind of just, I shook my head. I was like, you Gen Zs these days, just everything easy for yourself. You're never going to learn. And then I went down a rabbit hole a couple days later, and I was, from there, I just was like, I got to be an expert at this. This is going to
Yeah.
streamline everything we do.
Yeah.
We got the early half of the AI stuff because of the young bucks we had.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that's the why behind the automations. That's why we were like, hey, we need to do this. Also, we like to say we're poor. And so I was like, if I can do this and save $100,000 on a couple admin, this is gonna be great. And so it's also in that regard too. So up until about a year ago, we didn't have any admin. AI was just doing all the administration and it was just a couple buttons. We'd even create an automation that says, hey, if I click this button, send these 4 emails and send this document and, have a chat with the customer, right? And so it was in that regard where it was just button pressing. So it was
Yeah.
easy for me and any entrepreneur that can want full control over their growth,
Yeah.
to be able to have those back systems.
Yeah. Amazing. God, I love how much these young entrepreneurs have influenced you, right? They seem
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
such a positive influence in your life. And I guess I'm curious, right? Given that you are utilizing AI and it's literally doing all of your admin work, which is amazing, right? I guess I'd love to ask for your industry in specific, right? And maybe trade based services, right? How do you see AI affecting the future of these industries?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, even just this week, new updates are coming out, and
Yeah.
I was having a full blown conversation just on my headphones while I was at the gym, just like having a chat about some random process that I wanted to implement, and it was just a back and forth conversation. So,
Yeah.
it's such a complicated question because we have no idea where it's going to take us.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good question. I'm not sure I have an answer just because it's so vast of an
Yeah.
opportunity of what we can do. The biggest thing is just jump on it ASAP. And when I first heard about AI, it was through like, some, motivational speakers like Gary Vee and stuff where they said, jump on this. I heard a lot of different things where it's like, if you're not doing this, then you're going to be behind the game and all these different like motivational things. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll like look into that.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing really is like get ahead of the game because if you don't understand the smaller versions of what AI can do when you get to the ability to do the bigger things it can do, it'll just be too much. And so I think that'll be the thing. It's going to be so vast of an opportunity that it's going to be too complex, very much like Bitcoin, right? It's too
Yeah.
complex in a way, but back when it first started, it was simple.
Yeah.
Mine one Bitcoin. Now you have like 5,000 people doing one Bitcoin, whatever the case is. And so it's
Yeah.
that same concept, which you got to get in early to really benefit from it.
Definitely. I mean, okay, then on that note, right, I totally agree that's a difficult question to answer,
Yeah.
and we can't necessarily see the future, especially when it's changing so rapidly, as you've said. And so I guess in that note, right, where do you see yourself going with AI and automation?
I think we're at the peak of what we're able to do we've utilized every bit of it without
Mhm.
overdoing it.
Okay.
I think the only thing we haven't utilized is just, automated calls and conversations because
Yeah.
that's still, in my opinion, still too rudimentary for us. And I think if it continues to go where we think and want it to go, we may implement things like that where they're even our phone calls are just like Buddy, our Buddy bot, where right now it can have a full blown conversation and know all the knowledge, but maybe now it's a voice that's behind the phone and it's running all those conversations as well, and even potentially scheduling. We no longer need project managers, which
Yeah.
becomes even more scarier. Now we still need people behind
Yeah.
the glass wall there. So potentially helping them and being their assistant, making their
Yeah.
job a little bit easier and making everybody love their job just a little bit more.
Oh, couldn't agree more there. I totally agree. I know, it's a big fear of AI taking over our jobs, but I really do like to think of it verbatim the way that you said as an assistant to our jobs, right?
Hmm.
I don't always want to be tied up in admin work, in emails, in like filing documents and things like that. No one really does, right? And I like to think that AI and automation, when they take care of that, one, they're more accurate, and two, they save so much time that I can focus my time on the things I love, right? Or maybe even just on the work that is actually billable, right? And so huge, huge, huge benefit there. I guess I'd love to ask too, then on that same notion, right? If we're looking ahead, um, well, actually, maybe I'll backtrack just a bit, right? I know you've mentioned some pretty incredible changes and things you've been able to accomplish. I'm still wrapping my head around not having any admin work. Is there any other sort of measurable statistics or numbers that you've been able to track in using the Moxo app? Like any kind of anything around growth or number of clients, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Moxo has a lot of different features for reporting. It shows how many active users, how many people download the app. So being able to see the traction is really good
Yeah.
in general to see, hey, is this even worth, the purchase that we've invested in? And so being able to see that ROI in downloads is easily reportable. Be able to see the amount of people that are responding to certain messages. All those have reportable data for Moxo.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's on a financial level. We don't utilize Moxo to determine a finances. We use other CRMs for that. Really, the only thing we can report is how many active users are we gaining from this, and how many downloads, and how many people are actively coming back to it is really the
Yeah.
big one. I think that's a big one. We get to see how many estimates are in any given user. So we get to see, hey, Greg is our number one client. He's requested 25 this month. And it's an easy access of, hey, go to the reporting. This is all the people that have the app, and in order, this is who's used it the most.
Yeah.
Being able to see that really gears us towards, hey, this is a very valuable client for us, and be able to, it helps us create our priority list as well.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, I'm sure having that visibility really does, like you say, like you said, give you that access and um, allow you to prioritize, right? And also maybe know where you need to step into when things are maybe not going as well as Greg and, and
Mm.
his
Yeah.
his requests, right?
Mhm.
I want to talk a bit more about the human aspect, right? I know we spent a lot of time on AI, and I love that. I do want to tell you that I want you to look forward to Moxo this year because we have some very exciting things around AI that are coming out that I think I honestly I know you are going to love. And so very excited for that. But to bring it back to this human side, right? I know we've talked about how, valuable time is in your industry. I
Mhm.
think maybe trust would be another one. And so can you talk about these kind of tenets, right? I'm assuming even things like loyalty, right? Given semper fi is in your name. So can
Mhm.
you talk about more of the values that you have and how that kind of looks across your business?
Yeah, so I'll start back from one of the bigger reasons I sold my last company was because of the quote unquote values we didn't implement. And while we had a lot of values, of course, we were ethical in every way. But one of the stories I tell a lot of people is, I remember going into my office one day, and I was about to walk into my office and somebody stopped me and they said, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" And I said, "No, I'm good." And I continued to walk to my office, and he stopped me
Mm.
and he's like, "Sir, can you," he's basically, he didn't know who I was. I was the owner of the company.
Um,
And he was hired by my general manager, several weeks back, whatever the case was. And I was walking to my own office, and it got to a point where I was like, wow, I don't even know my own team. That is not
yeah,
good. And
yeah,
so that was a big reason. I wouldn't say the reason I ended up, selling it, but it was a really big, easy reason of like, I don't even know my own team. Nobody has loyalty to me. They barely know who I am. And that wasn't what that's not what the company I thought I would build. And so building
yeah,
these new companies, it was one of those things where I said, I want to know every single one of my employees. I want to make sure they love their jobs. And so we created, a whole system of making sure that everybody has ease of access. Buddy was created, as a starting point for Buddy was to be an assistant to our team. And
yeah,
we employ a lot of youth in our team because of the Bloom project and such.
yeah,
So they have a lot of questions, and sometimes I can't always be there for them. And so we
yeah,
created buddies like, hey, this is your personal AI assistant. And so that
yeah,
make your life easier. It's not replacing you, it's helping you. And if you can work 1 hour a day and have all of the goals done, then that's great. Just get the goals done.
yeah.
And so I forgot what the question was, but I'm going on a tangent now.
Go for it. You can
what
finish
was
that
the
off.
what was the question?
Um, this is so funny because I think once you said that, I forgot the question too. But no, but it was more so asking you, right? And I think you were right. You were right on it, so don't worry. Um, Asking you how important trust and
Oh,
loyalty
yeah, yeah.
are in
So,
your
for
business.
building our new team, it was really
Yeah.
important for me to make sure that they knew that they felt like they were at home.
Yeah.
Um, and trust is a big one, which is, creating SF Industries, Semperfi Industries. It's all about
Yeah.
loyalty in the military, and really, hitting home with those values to everyone
Yeah.
and making sure everybody, felt like they wanted to come to work. We have, policies in place, and limited, a lot of companies are doing it now, unlimited vacation, unlimited time off, limited this and that. And at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, as long as you're getting your job done, it doesn't matter how much time you take off. And showing them
Right.
that they really are valued in that way has been really helpful for the trust. And the trust portion is that we make it too good for them to want to quit, and we make it too good for them to do anything else. And I tell people all the time, I want you to be fearful of your job, not in a way that I'm putting instilling fear and like making it a bad word place, but you have it really good here. And I want you to be afraid to lose that. And that from there, you're gonna always do the right thing. And that's where that trust comes in. Knowing that we've built everything we can to ensure that they live a happy life, they're gonna do the right thing. And that's where that trust comes in.
Definitely. I really value this conversation because I feel like I'm learning about so many different things. And I keep going back to when you said boredom in the beginning. I wouldn't have expected any of this. I feel like this has been quite the novel. And I guess, right, when you're talking about the youth on your apps, right, it sounds like an absolute blessing what you're providing them.
Uh-huh.
And so, in that same kind of vein, I'm curious to know, right, have there been any sort of unexpected wins or high points for you in using the app and running your business?
Um, Unexpected wins. I think an unexpected one, we're going nationwide this year. We're being about 7 different states just this year, which is going to be great.
Amazing.
I think a win for the app is that it's able to keep up. We don't have to change our processes when it comes to the Moxo app. It's already there. It's
Mm.
already built in a very complex slash simple way that just makes it easy in a complex way. It's weird to explain, right?
No, I get it.
And
It's a
so
very complex platform, but allows you to simplify your
it
processes,
really
right?
does. So that's a nice win, is that we don't have to change anything. We don't have
Yeah.
to tweak it at all. We don't have to make it state driven. It's just already built for growth. And so that's a
Yeah.
really nice unexpected win.
That's incredible. And I mean, that's amazing to hear that you guys are expanding beyond state lines. That's
Mhm.
huge, right? So, congratulations there. I guess that makes me want to ask you, right? What do you envision is as the future of SF Industries? What is your next big step, and where do you see yourself down the line?
That's a good question, because we're already so far from where we thought we could be, from
Yep.
just a nonprofit teaching kids to actually building a real company out of it, being the biggest XYZ in the state, which we were proud of. And now it's nationwide. And we're like, wow, I don't even know what's next. We're
Yeah.
already at a point where we surpassed our goals. So
Yeah.
now it's just a matter of how big can we grow without crashing and burning at this point. No, we're just on this trajectory of let's really hope that we're not growing too big too fast. So I don't know what the next step is, honestly. The next step is to grow and be in multiple states and be nationwide, and at that point just retire.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, it's nice to hear that it's almost limitless, right? And your worries are more so like, "Oh, are we going too fast?" Not that, "Oh, can we do it at all?" So,
Yeah,
really
exactly.
incredible.
Now we're at a point, is like, it's not the next goal, it's should we slow down, should we stop something. So,
Yeah.
and that's a business killer in its own, is not
Mm.
knowing when to slow down, not knowing when to stop. And so we're stuck. I shouldn't say stuck. We're offered that opportunity to fail. It is,
Yeah.
if you wanna try to be cool, you can come over and try to fail with it. And so we're on a risky tightrope.
Definitely. Still a great place to be, I would say,
Yeah.
right? Because 'Cause you're
Yeah. No.
rather than being stuck or anything
Poor,
like that, and I
poor me. Poor me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, Ruben, honestly, I it's been so, so great talking to you. I think you have so much experience and wisdom to share and really a lot of inspiration for youth and for other business owners, right? And I guess one last thing I'd love to ask you then, I know I've asked you this about AI and automation, but for other, let's say, general contractors or anyone really looking to adopt a system, a platform like Moxo, what's your advice to them?
To do it before you create your business. One of the biggest things we teach in Bloom Project is, we have what it's called a 30-step program, and it's basically the steps of creating business. And one of the very, very first things is systems and processes. Getting your systems and processes down first before you even try to create a business or try to get
Yeah,
your first client is really important. So if you have the means to do so, get Moxo before you even have your first client.
yeah,
That's probably the biggest advice I can give them in this particular podcast, is to just do it now. Don't wait until you need it, because it's just going to
yeah.
slow you down later on.
Amazing. Well, Ruben, honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I enjoyed our laughs. I enjoyed the deeper moments too, and honestly, I'm really excited to see what that future looks like for SF Industries. You are so process driven, and I see you walking that tight line and getting to
I
wherever
should
it takes you,
know.
right? To bigger and better places.
Yeah.
Thank you again for sharing everything and great to have you on the show.